July 25th, 1956. The passenger ship Andrea Doria was westbound off the coast of Nantucket, bound for New York City. At the same time, the eastbound ocean liner Stockholm was on a reciprocal course to the Andrea Doria. The Andrea Doria had been operating in fog for several hours, while the Stockholm had just entered the fog bank. Both ships altered their courses, the Andrea Doria to port and the Stockholm to starboard, in the minutes leading up to the incident, when they had discovered each other on radar. However, neither vessel was sure of what the other one's course, speed, or even what the other vessel was. They also never established radio contact until it was too late. As the collision was imminent, Stockholm altered her course, hard to starboard, and began backing on her engines. The Andrea Doria turned hard to port, while maintaining her cruising speed of close to 22 knots. Little after 11 p.m., the Stockholm's bow hit the starboard side of the Andrea Doria, killing 46 on board and resulting in a total loss of the ship the next morning. The Stockholm had suffered severe damage to her bow and lost 5 souls on board. The Andrea Doria and Stockholm incident is one of the most prominent radar-assisted collisions in maritime history, and the reason for many of the Nav rules that we have today. Today we're going to take a look at Rule 7, which is the risk of collision. Every vessel shall use all available means appropriate to the prevailing circumstances and the conditions to determine if risk of collision exists. If there's any doubt, such risk shall be deemed to exist. Proper use shall be made of radar equipment if fitted in operation, including long-range scanning to obtain early warning of risk of collision, and radar plotting or equivalent systematic observation of detected objects. Assumptions shall not be made on the basis of scanty information, especially scanty radar information. In determining if risk of collision exists, the following considerations shall be among those taken into account. Such risk shall be deemed to exist if the compass bearing of an approaching vessel does not appreciably change. We refer to this as CBDR, or constant bearing, decreasing range. Such risk may sometimes exist even when an appreciable bearing change is evident, particularly when approaching a very large vessel or tow, or when approaching a vessel at a close range. Over the years, various radar plotting methods have been developed, from maneuvering boards and grease pencils to automatic radar plotting aids, or ARPA, and then having your AIS radar and chart all overlaid on the same display. These have all been used to help to determine the risk of collision. The rules also talk about what they call an equivalent systematic observation of detected objects. Over the years, most have figured this interpretation was limited to ARPA. However, some primitive radars do not include an ARPA feature, and many mariners, particularly on the inland side, are not certified to use ARPA even if their vessel was equipped with it. So when we use this equivalent systematic observation method, or ESO, we're going to set our display up using electronic bearing lines, or EBLs, and variable range markers, or VRMs. Our header line divides the screen in half, and we will offset the vessel, in this case an inland tow with 600 foot of barges in front of us, to the bottom of the screen to provide a better picture and to be able to see further ahead. We will need to figure out our speed. In this case, we know that we're traveling at 4 knots, so over the course of 6 minutes, we will travel 0.4 nautical miles. We will take our VRM and we will set it out to 0.4. Next, we will go ahead and select our electronic bearing lines and put them on the screen. The EBLs will line up with each corner of the bow. By setting the VRM to 0.4 and putting these EBLs at the corner of the bow, it enables us to set up guard zones that'll determine if something presents a risk of collision to us or not. Some people will use a second VRM and run it out to double the distance of the first. Others will use their second VRM to help keep a certain distance off of the bank. This is useful especially in the river. In this video that I'm showing you here, we have a tow that presents itself in a guard zone that requires us to take action. Depending on the course of the vessel, we either need to alter our course or alter our speed. What we have not yet done is determine the direction the target is moving relative to us. To determine this, we can use trails, which create radar imprints of where a target was on our screen. This will allow us to connect the dots, so to speak, and determine the relative course of a target to us. Personally, I'm not a big fan of using trails in the canal, as it clutters the screen very quickly. However, when used in open water, trails provide a very good tool that help us to determine the risk of collision. And so, in the canal, what I wind up doing is I watch the target to see if it's getting closer or further away from my VRM. If it comes within the VRM and within that guard zone, I then take action. Had the Andrea Doria or the Stockholm properly identified the other's course and speed in sufficient time to maneuver, a major tragedy very well could have been avoided. This incident is single-handedly responsible for several of the rules in this book, as we have said before. And multiple safety equipment regulations and industry best practices have come from this incident. Question of the week. Last week's question and answer. Inland only. A power-driven vessel that departs a dock and operates a stern propulsion in sight of another vessel shall sound what whistle signals? And the answer is one prolonged for departing the dock, followed by 3 short blasts on the whistle for operating a stern propulsion when in sight of another vessel. The correct answers last week were provided by Ian Whalen and Rigo Santabeneas. Congratulations and thank you guys. This week's question, both international and inland. A vessel blank cross a narrow channel if such crossing impedes the passage of a vessel that can only operate within that channel. Please include your answers in the comments below. Next week we will take a look at Rule 8, Actions to Avoid Collision. Please remember to click like, subscribe, and have a safe week out there, everyone. Take care.